Ah, here we go. Oh, now it's dark. Alright. We're back in the spooky car again, folks. There we go. Whoop, whoop. And adjust. There we are. I'm starting to think I should probably call these spooky car reviews because of the lighting and everything. Oh, brother. It's like something out of a weird, independent film shot of nothing but cameras and stuff. I'm really picky about lighting these days. There we go. No, that won't work. There we go. Now it's a love story. Yep. Here you go. It was between this one and Rampage, and usually when a movie like this, and when I mean a movie like this, I mean an independent film, usually when it comes out to my local theater, which is just a couple of blocks from where I live, it does not... Oh, I know that cute... Scooter Man! Yay! Go, Scooter, to go. I don't think you can see this. There's a worker I know who uses a scooter back and forth to work. That's a rare opportunity. So as I was saying, when I mean movies like this, I mean independent films. They literally come and go. Very rarely do they stay around for longer than like a week or two. And when I was looking at showtimes, I was originally, thinking of doing Rampage, and then I noticed this little guy was playing this weekend. And I don't know if it's going to stay around. Like I said, usually an independent production like this doesn't really stay that long, so I want to be really cautious. So I figured, out of sheer calculation, Rampage is a blockbuster. It's going to be around for like another week or so I can always see that on a matinee. Isle of Dogs, on the other hand, for something that I've been waiting for ever since it was first announced, and being someone who really likes Wes Anderson movies, I just had to see this one. And full disclosure, it's rated PG-13. It's in stop-motion animation. That makes it all the more great. It's filmed like a half pseudo-quirky comedy slash tribute homage to Japanese movies. And I liked it. I didn't really love it as much as, say, Grand Budapest Hotel or Fantastic Mr. Fox, and I'll get into reasons why in a bit, but just right off the top, I like this movie. It's really good. If you really want to see this, I do recommend seeing it in theaters. But as far as the feature as a whole, this is something that's been announced for quite a while from Wes Anderson, because stop-motion movies take a while to make. And when I heard he was doing a second one, I was really intrigued. I did not know any information outside of the title of the movie and, like, a little small snippet that he showed. Like it was a really quick, like, 5-second segment of one of the dogs being animated, which is kind of neat. And then when I saw the trailers, I got more and more hyped. I was like, wow, this actually could be really great. It looks like this big, grand, epic masterpiece. And, again, from my point of view. And for the most part, it really does feel grand and epic. It really feels like they're trying to do this grand, like I said, this Japanese film. I'm trying to think of a director to compare it to. On terms of this kind of level of film, it's definitely not. I'm trying to think of the director's name. It begins with an O. There's a little bit of Kurosawa in there. Regardless, I really like how they go back and forth, and they make this really clever use of having the animals speak English and the other characters, with the exception of translators and foreign exchange students, speaking in their native language. And I felt they used that really, really cleverly in this feature. Even they addressed it as a little joke at the beginning, which is, note, all the people in these the people in these movies will be speaking in their natural language. Dogs will be in English. So, that was a cute little bit. The whole product is built like a movie that was made in Japan, and it's executed like one. And as a guy who's, like, getting more into foreign films, there was definitely a lot of tropes and nods here and there. For example, there's a movie called Qui-Gon. And if you haven't seen it, it's definitely worth checking out. It's an anthology ghost story movie. And I think there's, like, one sequence where there's, like, these beautiful mural paintings, and there's, like, eyes in the background and everything. And there's certain shots in the movie that are like that. Especially near the end, which I don't want to spoil, because it's actually kind of touching and nice. So the plot of this movie is that a dog flu breaks out, and the mayor of Japan orders all dogs to be sent to this island of garbage, because they're all plagued and stuff. And even though a bunch of scientists are working on a cure, everyone else is still in favor of the mayor. And apparently there's this little... Okay, this is a little bit of a nitpick that I gotta bring up here. They set up very early on. There's like a little prologue they show, which I don't want to get into because it will ruin the whole aspect of the feature. But there's a little bit they have, which I thought was going to go somewhere. There's a bit where apparently the mayor really loves cats because it's part of his dynasty and, you know, his family legacy. And I thought there was going to be like a payoff to that, and there really wasn't. There's even a scene when he gets out of a tub and he has like a big tattoo of a cat on his back, and it's great. And I thought that was actually going to go somewhere. Like, okay, maybe there's going to be like a fight with dogs and cats, and it's not that kind of movie. It's not that kind of movie. I was like, you set that up so well in the first third, and it's just like, nah, it's just a little quirk, you know. It gives the excuse for probably the mayor doesn't like dogs, which I can kind of live with, but I think like something stronger could have been with that. But it's fine. Not every movie is flawless. So we get to the island, and you have your group. Bryan Cranston is the leader. He voices one of the dogs named Chief, and he's supposed to be like the leader of this pack. And they're quirky. They're fun kind of characters. I like their backstories, and they're actually kind of nice and funny. There's one that Bill Murray voices where he was like the mascot of a baseball team. There's another who apparently was like this very pampered dog used for like commercials and stuff. Jeff Goldblum voices one of them. I forgot which one he is. I think he's like the family pet, or he's part of like a restaurant or something. I really can't remember that well. I'm sorry. And that's kind of neat. You know, they all have backstories. They're kind of interesting, and I especially liked Bryan Cranston's character Chief. There's like a lot of mystery to him, and at the same time you're kind of wondering who he is and what they're building up to. And without giving too much away, there's a couple of nice twists near the middle where they do reveal more about his character and his origins and everything. And I kind of think that was more the interesting part of the movie. And I feel kind of bad because the first half, it sets everything up so perfectly. You have him trying to control these dogs, and the dogs are all like, no, we overrule you, we have better senses than you do, you're just a stray. And they have like this really funny running gag throughout the movie where they all vote against him. It's great. Pure Wes Anderson comedy, just the sheer awkwardness and the callbacks. I'm just loving it. And then midway, the movie just literally grinds to a halt. And it's not a bad halt, but at the same time, it really starts to like Jetsonize the whole thing. Like, it goes from less about the group and more about the Chief character, which I was fine. I was really fine with. But then afterwards, it's like, okay, now we're gonna focus on this guy. You guys are just like the little comedic, like comic relief kind of characters. And that is like one of the more... That's one thing I found a little disappointing with this movie, is that once we learn about Chief and who he is and where he came from, the whole plot becomes more about him and less about the other dogs that accompany him on this journey, which is a pretty big... It's a little bit of a story problem I have, because you have them working together and kind of fighting with each other and stuff like that, and they're trading stories. That's the part of the movie I really liked, and I was hoping that would carry over into this half. The second half of the picture I thought was fine too for what it was, but I don't know what it is. I feel like there should have been more streamlining, because I really love those characters and their stories, and they do pay off at the end, even though it's like a little blink and miss kind of moment. Actually, blink and miss is probably the wrong term. I'd say it's there. It's just not fully effective. So the whole story is that this kid crash lands on the island, and I'm not going to talk too much about this character because it will give away the whole movie. A good bulk of the movie, which should not be ruined. He crash lands on the island because he's looking for his dog, because this dog holds some really good purpose. And again, I don't want to spoil it, because, you know, it's better for you to find on your own. Because they don't say in the trailers, and it's probably fair not to go into that aspect. So he's finding this dog because this dog, you know, means a lot to him. The dog's name's Spot. And the whole movie is just Chief reluctantly helping out the kid and trying to, like, you know, help him find his dog and go back home, and it may or may not tie into like something where they try to prove that the dogs are actually worth caring and saving, and for the most part, the heart of the movie was really more with Chief and the kid. And I felt, you know, looking back in hindsight, that is the main thing of the movie. And for the most part, when you're looking at this environment, you know, this whole trash world, it really looks like a fun place to be. I mean, even though it looks all trashy and stuff, it's oddly beautiful to look at. There's a bit where they walk through a golf course, and there's a little joke where they chuck a tick into, like, a golf, into the 18th hole. There's a bit where they meet into this quirky character named Jupiter, and he has this little oracle dog that, like, can see into the future, but there's a reason why he claims he sees in the future, and I can't ruin it, because it leads to a pretty funny joke. So yeah, I think that is where the strength of the movie is. I think that's the pure strength of the movie. When it's just Chief trying to learn to loosen up and really care about humanity and stuff like that, that I think is really the better heart of the movie. Everything else around it is fine, but at the same time, I really feel like it could have been worked on a little better. And I'm not going to go into too much detail over what they are, because they really do ruin some plot lines here and there. But I will say, for the most part, there's like some small subplots here and there, which I think could have been handled a tad better. Like, they try to give Chief this love interest, and it's like one scene, and then they kind of sort of call back to it, and they try to pay it off at the end, and it's like, it's a nice little scene, but I kind of wish there was more moments like that. But there's so much focus on the journey with the characters and that kind of stuff, and you kind of wonder exactly, maybe it would have been better if they just cut that bit out and just let the whole thing play out itself. There's also this foreign exchange student that is trying to knack into the whole dog flu conspiracy thing, and okay, let's talk about that for a second, because there's a lot of reports I've been seeing about this film on its cultural sensitivity, and from what I understand, certain critics have been very... Oh, hold on a second. In Crazyville. There's just a bunch of people outside goofing off. I just want to play it safe. There have been a couple of critics and some folks that question the cultural sensibility about Isle of Dogs because it's clearly set in Japan. And I think for the most part, it really depends on your point of view and how you really view this movie as a whole. For the most part, I appreciate that they actually got some veteran Japanese actors to be in this movie, which is a huge plus, because it shows that there is a sense and style for the movie, especially with the setting and the design of the Japanese city and everything. But then you have stuff like, again, without giving too much away, there's a character in the movie named Atari. Yeah. And then on, like, the trash island, there's like this little hut that the dogs have, and it's made out of, like, sake bottles. Maybe it's more than that, maybe I'm just scraping the surface, but for the most part, that's really just sort of the bare minimum of it. I just honestly think it's a good movie, hands down. Not really much to complain about. But yeah, for the most part, it's fine. It's safe to watch. I got no complaints about it. Would I watch it again? Yeah. But if you're really going to see this, I recommend seeing it on a big screen, because if you rent this, it's going to like a run-of-the-mill Wes Anderson movie. And if you have, like, if you're a little unsure about certain tastes in terms of Anderson's quirkiness and strangeness, I think you're still going to be fine with this one. It's beautifully animated. There are some fun things here and there to look upon. Little quick note before I turn this off and just head out. When I saw this movie, there were a couple of families in the theater. There was like 4 kids or so. And I just kept thinking to myself, oh no, like, oh no, this is rated PG-13. I hope this is not, like, gruesome or anything. Thankfully, I messaged Matt about it, Matt Brunet, aka Animat, and he was like, yeah, it's okay, it's about as, like, you know, Pirates of the Caribbean kind of, you know, intense. It's not that bad. There'll be jokes going over in their heads. Surprisingly, they were actually kind of quiet. There was, like, maybe 1 or 4 moments where they kind of talked a little bit, but for the most part, they were okay. They were surprisingly fine, and they laughed at a couple of jokes here and there, but I guess there you go. It's kid approved, so Isle of Dogs. Go see it. Not much else to say, except until next time, see you in the next upload.